check my Twitch stream real quick because I've not done this for a long time. I want to make sure it's actually correctly pushing up there, and if it is, then we can start talking. All right, I have to log in first. Should have tried this out beforehand. Let me log in real quick. I'm hearing somebody in the background talking about Armor and Life, which is, I'm guessing, is the autoplay on Twitch, but that was a surprising. All right, twitch.tv/Matt Stauffer, probably, or Stauffer Matt, I don't know. Whatever my name is. Matt Stauffer. Is it streaming? It says offline, so maybe it's not streaming. Worst thing about Twitch is that you have to see. There we go. I'm going to monitor the chat room on my side in case anybody gets the notification. All right, it's working. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to monitor the chat room, but I think we are good to go. Let me pop out of the chat room, and then I think we're good to go. Let me double check it. Okay, cool. All right, so here's the deal. I have not Twitch streamed in ages, but I proposed the idea to Caleb, who works with me, that we build an app together, streaming, that essentially kind of provides a really rudimentary financial service that he and I have talked about before, where someone knows what to do with their money. He has a lot of thinking about finances, a lot of thinking about how to retire well and how to give your money away well, how to just what to do with your money. And so I said, well, you know what? You've been giving one-off advice to people. What would be really nice is that if there was an app that did that for you, but additionally, it'd be really nice if the app would give you certain prompts. And for me, it was less like it's this really robust financial tracking app, and it was more, I'm not going to remember this thing 2 days from now. And one of the things needs to happen in November of next year. One of these things needs to happen at June of this year or January of next year. And I just want really simple answers about where to put my money, baseline stuff, not high-level stuff, baseline stuff that everyone can follow or 90% of people can follow. And then I want it to kind of remind me of those things and help me track whether or not I've done the things. So that's kind of what we're talking through. We only got about 30 minutes today. And because we're trying pair programming Screen Hero, I'm not having the chat shared because Caleb can't see the chat because he can only see his screen right now. So hi everybody in the chat. I do see you on my screen, but at least for this one, we haven't really solved how to handle the chat when we're pairing between the two of us. So I'm going to watch you, but I'm not going to respond to him. So Caleb, here's what we're doing first in this one. We're not actually doing programming yet. We might get to programming within the next 30 minutes. We might not. But Caleb, say hey, and then from your perspective, now that I've kind of given the pitch for this app and what we're doing, what's your question as the person with the financial kind of thinking? What do you want to solve by the end of the next 30 minutes?
Yeah. Okay. So, hi there. For me personally, in the next 30 minutes, I want to solve the question of, is this thing doable in a simple way? Because when talking about all this financial planning stuff, it just goes so deep and there's so many rabbit trails and all these things. And if you make too many assumptions or not enough and the wrong assumptions, you can give the wrong advice. So I want to see so I want to pick Matt's brain and figure out, what is the problem he's trying to solve? Can we answer this question of where do I put my money in a really simple, streamlined way that helps most people and be honest about it? That's the question I want to answer by the end of this.
Cool. So what I kind of have going on for me right now is I have the idea that you're going to ask me as few questions as possible, and you're going to tell me something along the lines of, okay, so if you are within this, particular tax bracket, then you should be first thing you should do is get your employer 401k match, and then check off a box that says, okay, I've done that. And then the second thing you would do is you would, give up to X thousand dollars for you and your spouse into a Roth IRA. And then the third thing you would do is, put this much money into that much thingy, whatever. So for me, it's kind of like the simplest stuff, And then once I said, okay, yes, I have done that, then it's a reminder next year to do it again, or whatever else it ends up being. So really rudimentary. Everybody in the US who's within a particular tax bracket should do these things in this order in order to start optimizing. Especially we're kind of targeting like kind of younger professionals in the US in this, whatever that tax bracket is, the 20% tax bracket, whatever it is, who are just for the first time realizing that they should be doing certain things to get the best tax optimization on their money. Versus just kind of throwing money into a bank account when you don't spend it. What are the other things you should be doing with it? So what questions or what conversation can we have to best kind of get to that point where you feel like you know as a finance person kind of what we're going to do here?
Right. So why don't I start real quick by just outlining the steps, like the workflow of how we'd figure out where to put the money. So it's actually a really basic few points, and they get complex when you dig into them. But so the first step, oh, this is going to be rough. First step is get the match. So
all right. So when you say match, what you mean is if your employer offers a 401k retirement match, give to your 401k account enough that you're getting the full amount that your employer is essentially giving you for free.
Exactly. Yep. Cool. So you're never going to beat the return that you're going to get on the free money that your employer gives you. So oftentimes it'll be like, we'll match up to, 7% of your income, and you have to put up to 7%. Or maybe they'll say, we'll match 50% of 7%. Mm-hmm. And that's basically meaning that you have to put in 7% of your income. So if 7% of your income is 5K, you have to put in 5K, but they're only going to match this to 5K.
Okay.
Right?
So we've got the first thing everyone should do is they should do that match. And there's a checkbox somewhere that says, have you done your match yet? And if not, you don't get any other prompts. Cool.
Okay. And so step 2 is which IRA? So I guess step 2 is actually an IRA, but then the question is, which IRA do you put in?
So here's a thing for me. One of the things we've talked about when we talked about this before the streaming is it really important to ask, well, how can we get by with asking as few questions as possible, right? So for me, the answer of which IRA doesn't matter for the app, right? It's still going to say give $5,000 per person into the IRA, right?
Yeah.
So for me, number 2 is give $5,000 for you and optionally $5,000 for your spouse into an IRA. And then there's a little question mark next to it that says, which kind of IRA can I use? This one.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the kind of thing that's hard for me to like break it down to that, because it's just changes, what your retirement looks like.
Sorry about that, everybody.
But I hear you. Okay.
Right, but in the end, it's just $5,000, right? So the checkbox, the checkbox is the same in the app, no matter what, or 5,500, right?
Yeah. So let me explain one thing really quick. I think this might help. So imagine that this is a sliding scale, and this whole scale is how much you're willing to invest for the year. So this is you're not putting any money into any investments, and this is you're putting 100% of your income. As you slide this scale, the advice changes. So because you're only putting in this much, it makes sense to put into a Roth IRA. But as you slide it over here, because the way that taxes change and things like that, then it makes sense to put it into a traditional IRA.
So I was under the impression how do you feel about it? I was under the impression that the difference between the two is primarily based on how much money you made, not based on the amount you're giving. Is that wrong?
It's definitely primarily based on how much. It's based on your taxable income. That's what matters, because that determines your tax hit. And so
like I said, it's based on how much money you make. In the shortest, simplest way of saying it, whether you do Roth or traditional is based on how much money you make, right?
It's based on your taxable income. So the decision actually does come down to if okay. So if you make a small amount of money, traditional advice is, so here's the income scale. If you make a small amount of money, traditional advice is use the Roth. If you make a big amount of money, because your taxes are so high and you'll probably retire with a smaller amount of money, then it says use the traditional IRA. Mm-hmm. But there's this force of nature that basically says, because the cap is, 55, these drawings are terrible, because it's 5.5K, because of the nature of Roth and traditional, if you're only putting between $0 and $5,500, you should always do Roth, no matter how much you make. So if you invest another top, extra investments here, then it can tip it to sometimes you should do traditional IRA. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, I would. I still think that this app is at the level of simplicity that we're talking about right now. That information, even if it's that graphic right there, which is great, should, or even if it's like a little mini calculator in a popover, should not require. Based on what you've said, the more fidelity it has, the more information it has about the money you make, the more stressful it is, and the more decisions it has to make. Right?
For sure.
So I would say
Yep.
let's just write this off as an informational thing. This is a good graph. Let's have this graph, but the checkbox on IRA should be give $5,500 to an IRA, and then there's a little button next to it that says, should I use Roth or traditional? And then it's just an info screen. And the info screen may have a widget to help you decide, but it's not a core feature of the app. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes
And
sense.
it even, if you want, you can even keep track of which one I decided, just as literally a checkbox, just so that a year down the road I go, oh man, I can't remember which one I decide. Oh, okay, I decided Roth. But I don't think that the app, in its simplest form, needs to handle all of that complexity.
Okay, sounds good. And as a side note, the answer is probably 80% of the time going to be Roth. If you're an American and you spend the way Americans normally spend and you retire the way they do, you'll probably want to do a Roth, because if you're making high enough to need to do the traditional, you probably won't even qualify for the traditional deduction, right? So, all right. So that makes sense to me. All right. So number 2 is IRA. Number 3 is finish out the 401k. So I don't know how we would say this. I'll just put 401k. Yeah, so that's step 3. So you've already put into the 401k to get the match, and then you hop over to the IRA so that you own the investments, and there's small advantages that make this a more lucrative option. Then after that, sock it into the 401k until you max out the 401k, and then after that, put it in taxed accounts, tax investment accounts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so tell me what the finish out the 401k is. There's like just a certain point at which you can't give any more into your 401k?
Right. So the max is 18K
Okay,
on
cool.
a 401k.
So basically,
matches
based on employer, and then number 3 is up to 18k.
up to 18K. Yep.
Okay. And then 4 is what investments?
Tax investments. So
Okay,
this
cool.
is, you're taking your pocket change, you're going to TD Ameritrade or some stock brokerage service or whatever, and you're just dumping money in investments.
Okay, so to me, and what for those who are actually still paying attention to us, we've talked a million times, and Caleb knows like 1,000 things that should be considered and 1,000 different formulas. And I said I don't care about that right now. What I want is the simplest possible thing. Here are the few steps that every single American within the 20% tax bracket should take today in order, and then a tool that makes it easier for them to do them. Remember which ones they have and have not done yet, and then remember follow-up items, right? So for me, 401k match is a one-time thing, right? Checkbox. IRA is a yearly thing, right?
Well, the match is a yearly thing as well.
But I'm going to go configure it with my employer, and then it's going to be configured for life, right? I don't have to reconfigure it every year.
Well, right. If you set up the contributions, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So just do a little, write the word checkbox or do a checkbox icon or whatever. It's a one-time thing. Okay. IRA is a yearly checkbox, right? Every year I have to go to something and say, I want to put this much money into my IRA. And I could put 500 and then 500 later, 500 later. So there's a step, like a yearly repeating thing that you have to do or whatever. I don't know what the illustration
right.
looks like.
So I use Betterment, and I don't actually recall if you have to specify.
90% sure that you have to redo it every year.
Okay. Yep. So then yearly.
Yeah. Okay. The rest of the 401k, that's a checkbox once, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then tax investments is probably, it could be either, right? It could be setting up a, yeah. Okay. So let's just do it a checkbox for now. Okay. So we have a combination of things that happen once and the things that happen once, but then you need to be reminded of. So I think it's like a combination of two things. One is a commitment, like I commit that I have made this, this step right now. And then the second one is reminders for some of those commitments, right? Like remember to put your money into your IRA again this year. Remember that if your tax investments aren't automatic, then go do them, right? So it's basically, essentially, it's 4 check boxes, and some of the check boxes remind you every year.
Yep.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying we can build this as a super, super, super simple software as a service. Laravel Bootstrap, allow people to sign up, allow them to check various things at various stages, and then send out yearly reminders and have a they can have a preference of what reminders they want, and we can be done in a couple Twitch sessions. Now, right, like we can just build this, but it seems to me like this is a really easy kind of early level proof of concept that we can build in Bootstrap and Laravel, and then we can kind of toy around with it, and you can say, well, this advice is bad here or whatever, but my gut says get this thing out, give it out for free for everybody. And then that starts funneling them to have more interesting conversations around kind of like the additional financial information you have to provide.
Okay, and so are you comfortable with walking through sort of this flow right now, just how it would look to the user, how it would feel, and I think that'll help me get a better picture of how this will work out.
Okay, so you sign up for the app, put in your email address. You can do email login if you don't want to do a password. Yep. And then it says, some really, 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 really high level intro stuff teaching you the flow. It's probably going to present the 4 steps to you. So like a simple intro page. And then it's essentially some form of either wizard or have you ever used that form service where like you fill out one question at a time? Dan loves it.
Yeah. Yep.
Something like that maybe, where you're presented there the concept that multiple stages exist in the UI.
I'll just say wizard. I think that's
okay.
A good word
But the one you're in right now is the one featured, and so it's going to say the first thing you should do is you should go up to your employee 401k match. Have you done that yet? Check mark. What does this mean? Question mark. Little but thing you hit with an explainer modal.
Okay. And so at this step, something that just popped into my head, if I'm doing this, and let's say I come to the table and I know that I save 20% of my income, right? Mm-hmm. So if I know that I'm going to be stocking $10,000 into investments, and there's this checkbox, get the match. And let's say I haven't touched any investments yet. So I could read this and I could go, all right, well, I'll get the match. And then I go and I log into the, my 401k and I set the contribution so that I'm getting the match. And then later on, I figure out that I still have more to put in the 401k. Are we okay with that workflow that I would go back and change it again? Or
yeah, because like for me, if I say I have committed that the base level thing I need to do is put money into the 401k, and then or let's say my employer later adjusts the amount they match. We don't need to the amount of complexity you need to add to handle those edge cases is exponential. So instead, you just say like, don't worry about it. If I know that I'm supposed to be matched up to 3.5%, and then later it's 5%. Well, then if I think about this app at all, I think, oh, you know what, I probably got to do it. But I probably already remember that the number one thing I need to do is the 401k match. And so if I'm all of a sudden not matched, I now need to go rematch.
Yep. Okay.
And if you want, there can be a reminder every year that says, hey, go check if your employer match or your taxable income or whatever has changed in the last year. And if so, then re-up. But again, the reminders are down the road, not in the wizard.
Yep. Okay. So in the wizard, get up to the match, and we have to ask some basic questions. We have to know if we're going to calculate.
But no, we don't. We don't. Why would we do that?
So we're not doing that at all.
No,
so
that's what I'm saying. Like, why would we just get up to the match? Because anybody who has an employer that offers a 401k match, they're gonna have the facility within the company to say, okay, I want to give that. So we don't need to. It's literally just check boxes.
Wow. Yeah, this is crazy. Blowing my mind.
So it's a checkbox and it's an explainer, and then once you check it off, you go into the next one.
Yep. Okay. And the next is sock some dough into an IRA.
Right.
If you still got money left over.
And if you want, you could add some complexity here. Like I mentioned, is it a spouse filing jointly, or is it just you? And if it's a spouse filing jointly, there's 2 checkboxes. If it's just you, there's 1. That's it. And then there's an explainer that says which IRA should I give? How do I give to an IRA? And the which IRA should I give would have a little explainer on Roth versus traditional. And the how do I give to an IRA might have a each of these might have an explainer that is how, and then maybe also like a additional explainer that is what is this or whatever. So yeah, which one you already understand because you already gave that, and then the how might say, well, if you've never given an IRA before, you can sign up for Betterment, or you can sign up for Wealthfront, and then go click here, click there, click that, and then good to go.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to add something. So MFJ. So married filing jointly, there would be 2 checkboxes. Right? Something like that.
If you want to. Yeah. If they say married filing jointly, you can either say single or married filing jointly, which is a radio. And if you say the radio for single, then there's a single IRA checkbox. If you stay married, filing jointly, there's 2 checkboxes, one for you, one for your spouse.
Right. Okay. All right. So they get the IRA, and then it's finish the 401k if there's money left over. So what about this? At this point, so let's say that the match for most people is around $5,000, and the IRA is another 5, and let's say they're married, so it's 10. So we're at $15,000 in investments, and I think, you know, for the average person, that's probably getting to the point where they might be tapping out, you know, and it might even be bigger than this. You know, I know like a friend of mine, it's 10%, so it could be like $20,000. So at this point, let's just say that they don't have any more money to invest, and they know that. What happens now? Is there like a skip ahead or finish, or do they leave this unchecked, or what happens in that flow?
So if for whatever reason, if it's not done, then that's reminder. The reminder is something like, you know, I'm done for now. Remind me to come back every 6 months or something like that. The default probably would be to have the most reminders. Remind you if you don't have all your checkbox checked. Remind you every 3 months to come back and reevaluate. And then if there are any actions that you've taken that require annual rechecking or whatever, like for example, if the get up to match, if you have it checked, should remind you every 6 months or every year to whatever, right? So it's purely about the very, very occasional reminders to keep this at the top of your head, because you're not going to come back to this website and check it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So then what would the messaging be for this little wizard that says finish up the 401k?
Well, the only messaging you get on the wizard is like, because if someone's not done, there's not going to be a button that says I'm not done, right? They're just going to probably leave the thing. So there's a separate messaging somewhere on the side, on the top, in the intro page, whatever, that basically says like, now that you've signed up, we are going to be sending you reminders. Click here to customize reminders or something like that.
Okay, and then if they re-log in, like they're stuck at this step in the wizard.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm thinking is like finishing up the 401k, and then even the taxed investments part. Like this is a bottomless thing. This never ends.
Mm-hmm.
You could put in hundreds of millions of dollars. And then even the 401k, you know, if there's a spouse and there's 2 people and it's like 30 grand, like most people are just never gonna get past this step.
Right.
So I'm seeing that as like a yucky experience for me, that I wouldn't want to log in and feel like I haven't finished something, you know.
But it's not really a login as much as it is like it's basically a blog post that teaches you do this, and this, matched together with a little bit of, you know, convenient UI that puts the explainers in context instead of just in a blog post, combined with reminders. That's it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like when you first started at Titan, you told everybody, well, here's my particular opinion. This is how you should do these things. This, then this, and this, and this. And everyone said, hey, that's a really cool, useful way of thinking about it. It always seemed really complex to me. I'm glad you've done all the thinking. What was that thing again? Oh, this and this and this and this. Okay. Oh, well, I've got these couple questions about the 2, and then a couple questions about the 3. So that's the combination of the list, the explainers, the checklist that helps people in one place to track how far they've made it, and then the reminders. Because again, like for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I've got that, but now I have to remember. So I put a calendar thing on my calendar that says every June, send me a reminder that says give $5,500 for IOA for you and the wife. Yep. Right. So that's the entire facility of it. It is, you know, where should I put my money? Step 1. These are the things you should do. So yeah, of course, worry about the messaging around the 401k thing, but it's not as if some people are going to log into this, you know, more than a couple times a year max.
Okay. Yep. And then we can work out the UI so it doesn't seem like you're stuck in some step that you can't get out.
And I think that you're probably going to do some UI drawings in between our Twitch streams, right? Because the Twitch streams, you know, this is cool here, but and you even said before we got on the call, you're like, well, what are we gonna code, or are we gonna make ideas? And I said, well, it's cool for us to define the high level goals, but I don't think that every aspect of drawing things needs to be in these streams.
Yep. Totally.
So I think that by the time we come to the next stream, you're going to have done a lot of more of these drawings on the messaging and the panels. But I wanted to make sure that you're at least feeling good about what we're doing, so that when we start building it, you're not like halfway in and be like, you know what, I don't actually like this app. So Do you like the idea?
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's my hesitation is that it's not something that would personally be useful to me. Obviously,
right?
You know, like I guess that goes without saying, but it's really hard for me to internalize that, because to me, I'm like, well, I really want to know how much. You know, how, like, should I put into the Roth or the traditional? I need to get to the bottom of that. And it's a lot of thinking.
Well, the good thing about that is, though, that
calculation.
you can always add that on, right? Like this app does not break if you decide to make
Yeah, right.
the Roth popover smarter.
Yep. And so the difference is I needed this to understand that it is apparently useful to here get the match, then put into X 401k, then go in the 401k, then in tax
Right.
investments.
And then
That just
if you put
yes.
the thing out there and then people say, well, it's really hard for me to use this until I have that little mini widget tool about the Roth versus whatever where I drag my my income. Okay, cool. Then build it. Then you
Yep.
Twitch stream building a View app that's a widget about how do you decide Roth versus traditional.
Yep. And the benefit of this simplification is this is like infallible. Like this is 100% accurate.
Right.
Nobody would ever dispute any of this advice right here. They would dispute the little nitty-gritty decisions within them,
Right.
but not this. So, yeah, cool.
All right. We
Yep,
got
this has
9
been
minutes.
definitely good. All right. What do you want to do?
I'm screen share
Switch
back on my
screens?
side, and then we are going to do a little bit of code, just a tiny little bit. So let's.
Do you want to rob the screen share?
I did already. Do you not see it?
Let me just pull up screen here.
Oh, you know what? We made this repo, but there's not actually anything in it.
Okay, I got it. Did you just Lambo that? I missed
I
it.
sure did.
Nice.
I didn't. This is why I want a Lambo RC is because I didn't pass all the parameters that you should, like the whole what's my editor, what's my everything else. So now and that's my frustrating thing about it is I need to get that stuff. So okay, so hold on, let's do our stages. So one of the things I do a lot is I review people's code as they're applying for a job with us, and one of the things that bothers me the most is when they have not done the work to make sure their commits are diffed. And so like they're like, oh, go look at this, and I'm like, yeah, 98% of the code in this repo is just base Laravel stuff. Like, how am I supposed to look at your code? So I'm now like a big stickler on
Initial commits.
on staging the commits as much as possible, especially when you're talking about the actual original code.
Right.
Cool. All right. So. Okay, so we've got the scaffolded off. So what is the most useful thing we can do in 7 minutes? So someone can sign up. How do we do login? Is this an email login or is this a
I would love it if it was a social login.
social
I think
login?
for like the size of this app, it makes sense to make it really easy to just get up and running.
All right, so Laravel Socialite. The one problem with that is you have trust issues where people are not sure whether they trust, if you got money, sometimes there can be trust signal concerns there. But let's just try it out and let's just kind of see where that takes us. So we're
Trust in
gonna
the
go
sense of what we'll do with their
with their
social
information,
accounts,
which
or-
is funny because people should have those concerns anyway. But there's something about it because it's like money, and now we're asking for more information. But I think we should just do it. So
Yep. I saw a helpful, I find few people get the social messaging right, and I think yesterday somebody did it really well, and it was like I don't know, just being really honest, like we're not going to do anything bad, obviously, but they said it in a really nice way, and we should definitely add that.
okay, down. Oops, I just saved and I shouldn't have. I was accidentally doing that. Come on. This tiny screen is killer.
Yeah, right.
Everything you do like kind of gets thrown off, even just like how far you're used to using your mouse on something. All right. And we'll get the GitHub credentials later. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be enough for us to be able to do here in the next 5 minutes, but we've got a note that we're going to do Socialite. Let's throw in a. All right, so your target going to be since we already have like a network of developers, do you want to start with just kind of like GitHub, Twitter, or do you want to do Facebook too? Is GitHub even just weird to do?
Yeah, I think GitHub might be weird to do. What if we just start with Twitter?
Okay. All right, so I feel like there's a super easy. Wait, where are we here? Where were we before? Laravel/Socialite. Isn't this where we just were? Oh, it just linked me to the top of the thing that I'm already on. I feel like there was like an easy copy paste one for Twitter without you having to do the work yourself. Am I crazy?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy. Because I feel like I just did this.
Oh, he did this thing. Okay. He said, don't use on-page search anymore. Use /search, socialite.
Right. Yeah.
Except there's no thing. Okay. Maybe there's not actually in the docs. Social packages, socialite. If it links me to the GitHub docs. Okay. I really feel like there should be a copy paste thing.
Right. I'm gonna glance at.
I have a couple that do it, but.
Right.
Let's see, is there already a Twitter one here? No, there's no Twitter one here.
Oh, you know what? I robbed yours from either Symposium or Gistlog. I think it was Gistlog. I think that's where I took it from.
Okay. Jeez. All right, so let's go.
Yeah, app HTTP auth controllers, I think had just like.
First, I'm going to grab my services. Oh, but see, this one's GitHub though, so it's not Twitter.
Right. Yeah, and I just adapted it to Twitter, which takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, I just didn't know what keys Twitter needs.
Right. Yep.
So, man, did you really have to do all this? It's been a while since I wrote this.
I think I stripped some of it down, but it's...
Yeah. I feel like there's probably a thing that we can do here to make this easier for somebody to spin up a socialite service provider, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
I think there's a website, though. Maybe they've already done that, where they collected all the socialite providers together. So let's just go to Twitter and just see. Maybe these would be the people that should have provided this facility, right?
Right. Yep.
I don't care. Yeah. See.
Nice.
They are the people who should have, and they are the people who did. Go team. Adam, should he? Eloquent OAuth. No, man. I love Adam's packages, but once it's built in the core, it's hard to choose to use something outside of it.
Definitely.
Doesn't support Twitter. Oh, and there's that. All right, so Twitter, you key for the service, Twitter, URI, and then these are pulling out of there. Okay, cool. See, I still think that somebody should have a, these guys should have the oh, you know what that was good about Adams is that Adams handled the, yeah,
Control.
Exactly. Adams handled the entire authentication way better. So, because now you have to basically, that's what you had to copy from mine, is that you had to copy all of this whole aspect where it's doing this kind of stuff. This is not handled in the core. I feel like that's something that Laravel should do, right? Am I missing? Like, you don't have to use it, but it should have this kind of really simple built-in stuff. All right, so we're basically
like some sort of stubbed out views that you publish or something.
Well, not even necessarily the views, yeah, but also the controller, right?
Right, not views, yeah, just stubbed out files, yeah.
And it's going to be register controller. And also Symposium is probably, this is back when auth controller was a single one. And now we have login versus register controller. We only have a minute. Okay. Adam, you should, Adam, that's what you should do. This thing right here should be, one, like, or a separate one should be exactly what we're talking about, right? It's like the makes it this much easier, but with socialite is a bit. Here, see, this is what he did about this. You don't have to have all that crap, right? There's just an authorize, and then there's a login, and then you're done. Yeah.
Yep.
Gosh, I do want to use this. Last time I did, I kicked myself after I didn't. Okay, between now and next week, we are going to decide whether we're going to use Eloquent OAuth L5 instead of socialite, because it really does kind of save some extra work. We are going to kind of do some high-level drawing of what the views are that we're going to do. And I'll also put this up on a staging server just so that people can click around it. We also will plan a time ahead of time. Now that we've seen that we can make this work, the whole screen hero flow works, and we'll actually tweet it up beforehand. The reason we didn't this time is because it took a while to get our OBS configs with the audio and everything for screen hero set up right. But now that it's set up, we're going to have a scheduled time. Oh, not next Friday, because next Friday we'll be in Chicago, company on site. 2 Fridays from now, we will set up a time. We'll tell people ahead of time. We'll tweet it out. And we'll start building through those pieces.
Cool.
Cool. All right, Caleb. Thanks. This was fun, dude. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in, or for watching on YouTube if you are watching them when we updated later. And we'll see you all later.
All right. See you guys.